Also, the squad, back with another video. I'm Recklezz.
Okay.
Got a little short history about slavery. This is Candace Owens. Definitely appreciate everybody tuning in, watching this reaction. Definitely don't know much. You know what I'm saying? I don't know a whole lot about slavery. Just now learning a lot of stuff. Yeah. You know, my mom would always talk about, you know, slavery and down south. She's from Mississippi, Mount Bayou, I'm pretty sure. So she would always mention different things like this. But you already know, make sure you have to like and subscribe and listen to the video.
And now for a brief history of slavery. Here's the first thing you need to know. Slavery was not invented by white people. It did not start in 1619 when the first slaves came to Jamestown. It existed before then. It did not start in 1492 when Columbus discovered the New World. In fact, when the intrepid explorer landed in the Bahamas, the native Taino tribe hoped that he would help them defeat their aggressive neighbors, the Caribs. The Caribs enslaved the Taino and, on occasion, served them for dinner. Slavery existed in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. The word slave actually comes from the Slavs of Eastern Europe. Millions of them, all white by the way, were captured and enslaved by Muslims in the 9th century and later by the Ottoman Turks. Slavery existed when the Roman Empire controlled the Mediterranean and most of Europe from the 1st through the 5th centuries. Slavery existed when Alexander the Great conquered Persia in the 4th century BC. It was so common that Aristotle simply considered it...
That's the thing. So like I said, like I grew up like with my mom saying things about, you know, slavery and blacks and this and that. And I always grew up thinking that a white man, you know, had a bunch of black, you know, people as slaves. I didn't know really how it started. I thought it was just, you know, something that was invented that was, you know, I would always see movies and stuff and see you know, a white person or whatever and having black people as slaves. And I didn't really get the history. And it's kind of sad, you know, you don't really learn any of this in school. You don't really learn. You have learned it. You don't even learn it at all, you know, from most parents, because a lot of them have their own ways of, and not doing their own research. It's just more of, oh, okay, well, this is that, you know, and it kind of sucks that you don't really know much about it. And seeing stuff like this kind of puts knowledge in my head because I'm thinking, oh, okay, slaves is, you know, it's a whole bunch of black people. And I feel like it was more of, you know, I guess of having that power, not knowing, I mean, not caring what color you are. It's just, I don't know.
Existed when Alexander the Great conquered Persia in the 4th century BC. It was so common that Aristotle simply considered it natural. The slave master model was just how the world operated in the great philosopher's day. Slavery existed during the time of the ancient Egyptians 5,000 years ago. As far back as we can go in human history, we find slavery. As renowned historian John Steele Gordon notes from time immemorial, slaves were a major item of commerce. As much as a third of the population of the ancient world was enslaved. Here's the second thing you need to know. White people were the first to formally put an end to slavery. In 1833, Britain was the first country in the history of the world to pass a Slavery Abolition Act. They were quickly followed by France, who in 1848 abolished slavery in her many colonies. Then, of course, came the 13th Amendment in the United States Constitution. After centuries of human slavery, white men led the world in putting an end to the abhorrent practice. That includes the 300,000 Union soldiers.
So basically, people who owned slaves wasn't just white people. It was different other races. They just had slaves. Because I seen another video of it. It's saying
I remember that video too.
A black person owned slaves or whatever.
Like every race, I think, owned like their own slaves or whatever. I remember that from the last video.
Abhorrent practice. That includes the 300,000 Union soldiers, overwhelmingly white, who died during the Civil War. Now, am I saying that this makes white people better than anyone else? Of course not. My purpose here is to simply tell the truth, and the truth is that human history is complicated. No one, regardless of skin color, stands guiltless. Yet today we are never told to consider the murderous Persian Empire or the cannibalism of indigenous tribes of North and South America or the heinous actions under the imperialistic Muslim, Chinese, Mongol, or Japanese empires, to name just a few. Instead, we're told that slavery is a white phenomenon. And like all persistent lies, this lie spawns a bunch of other lies. On social media, I come across extraordinary depictions about how Africans lived like pharaohs before Europeans came and laid waste to their paradise. I wish any of this were true, but it's not. It's a fantasy. The truth is that Africans were sold into slavery by other black Africans, and in many cases, sold for items as trivial as gin and mirrors. Whites didn't go into the interior and round up the natives. They waited on the coast for their black partners to bring them black bodies. The stark reality is that our lives had very little value to our ancestors. Here's the third thing you need to know. If you think slavery is a relic of the past, you're wrong. There are some 700,000 slaves in Africa today, right now. That's the lowest estimate that I could find. Other sources say there are many more.
So it's again, I think, all with power. So it's like you have that money, you got that power, and it's really people in Africa, and we'll see, like I see those videos, like, you know, on TikTok, and I'd be thinking, like, maybe them ain't the ones that's slaves, but you're thinking about it, like, I don't know.
We don't
like
know,
it can be slaves really anywhere.
Yeah.
Like you can be a slave, like just to somebody like that got you just like you just I don't know. Like
Context, that's almost twice as many slaves as were ever brought to the United States. Child soldiers, human trafficking, forced labor. These are the conditions that currently exist within the same sub-Saharan region where the transatlantic slave trade originated. African bodies are being sold today like they were sold then, and no, they are not being purchased by any country of white men. In fact, slavery, by any traditional definition, is exclusively practiced today within non-white countries. But we hear almost nothing about that. Just like we hear nothing about how slavery was universal until good people in Europe and America ended it 2 centuries ago. Why? Because our so-called leaders, black and white, wouldn't profit from it. Black victimhood is nothing if not profitable. It elects politicians and funds racial grievance groups. And if black Americans began to view themselves as partners in the American dream, if we embraced the patriotic spirit that holds all men are created equal, the patriotic spirit that is our real heritage, then the race hustlers would soon be out of business. And who wants that? I'm Candace Owens, author of Blackout for Prager University.
Sam, that's something I feel like a lot of people need to see is the history about slavery. Like that's what's crazy. Like
because we
I
don't
feel like
know what they tell
I
us.
feel like a lot of these videos need to be, you know, presented and shown in different schools, all schools. The right videos, of course, of history instead of putting out books and shit that has nothing to do with daily living. You have, you know, and that's another story. You know what I'm saying? That's been reacting to stuff of nasty books and stuff that shouldn't be in schools, but I feel like this is the important stuff that you need to know. So you know, because just this little 5-minute video can change the way that you look on, you know, life in, you know, the United States and really what you're doing, what you're voting for, and how you living. Like it, I feel like a lot of, and not just this video itself, but the videos that myself being reacted to or me and Chris being reacted to, and I feel like it's real important. But you already know, definitely a great video. Definitely enjoyed it. And it was something that was needed to be heard. But you already know, hit that like button, subscribe button. Catch y'all next one.